Hello, my name is Jake Kurth, and today's training tutorial is going to be going over how to assemble an LCT comparison microscope system with the Exolitis fluorescence Excite light source. Okay, so the first thing you're going to notice is your microscope will come unassembled. Because we're using the fluorescence illuminator, it will not have an arm on top. You'll just have the two microscope frames. Our first step is to get everything unpacked, kind of like how you see behind me. A very important note you will notice when you're looking at the components is every component's labeled left or right. And that's absolutely critical because that refers to the color balance and light intensity work that we've done here at Leeds. But that said, it's a fairly easy setup. As long as you follow the labeling and use the required Allen wrench, which is going to be mostly a 3mm, occasionally a 4mm Allen wrench. This is basically the only two tools you need to do the install. A quick comment when you're adjusting screws or just screwing things together is remember this is metal, not wood. So you do not want to over torque it because when you're over torquing it, that means you're going to start actually causing the metal to buckle. So yeah, let's get started. So first thing I'm going to do with this setup is I'm going to arrange the microscopes, kind of how you see them, and we're going to put the fluorescence illuminators on. So our first step is I'm going to take my right reflected light illuminator. What you'll notice is that your illuminator will already have the filter cubes loaded on the inside. I'll show you how to load filter cubes later. But the first thing we're going to do is take our right illuminator and place it on our right microscope. You'll notice that the microscope is laid out left to right. Going to put that on, and then there's captive 4mm screws located inside of the illuminator. I like to just get them a little tight, back it out, and then go in kind of a cross pattern, or an X pattern. And the idea here is, again, to get things snug, but not actually feeling the metal part as you torque it in, because that's not good. So now we're going to do the next side. Our next step is going to be to put the comparison bridge directly on this microscope. Okay, I've done a slight modification of our demo unit, make it more like the system that we shipped you. So now what I'm going to do is take my bridge and place it on these mounts for the microscope bridge itself. And it's about just trying to get it aligned. You may need to reposition some things ever so slightly. And then when you get it, simply take your 3mm Allen wrench and tighten the front and tighten the back. And actually, one thing I'm going to just slightly do is I'm going to line up on the front of the table and make sure everything is square. And now I tighten it. Our next step at this point is going to be to put the tilting binocular or tilting trinocular on the comparison scope. Again, there is a simple dovetail located here. This just tips back and slides into that dovetail. And then there's another 3mm Allen wrench set screw located here. You will notice when you put the eyepieces in, if you loosen and then adjust the tilt or the angle of this trinocular, it'll change the dividing line if it's up and down or if it has a cant to it. So on one of the final steps on setup, what you'll want to do is just put two eyepieces in, put the dividing line in the middle of the bridge, and then adjust the angle of the trinocular to get that dividing line straight up and down. Similarly, when it comes time, when you mount the camera on here, if the dividing line is vertical, straight up and down, but then the camera dividing line is crooked, you can adjust the camera's dividing line by adjusting, this is what is called the photo port, and this is where the camera will attach. And if you adjust that angle, or that twist, you can adjust the dividing line for the camera. But for now, we're going to go ahead and close that dust cap. Okay, So our next step is going to be to mount up the condenser and then the stages. This is our polarizing light condenser. We're going to go ahead and mount it here. First thing I'm going to do is bring the focus up of the stage using this focus control, and I'm going to bring the condenser down a bit and then flip the flip top so it doesn't bump into the top of the stage. And then this whole thing slides in, and then there's a little locking screw on the right. This is different than the centering screws. This is just a simple little locking screw, so when it gets locked in, it won't slide out. You'll notice there's also one for the left side as too, and it will be labeled with a sticker. Please note that your microscope, or many microscopes, don't necessarily have the polarizer attachment. If they don't, it's the same procedure, it just doesn't have this polarizer attachment. Our next step is to attach the stage. In the case of just a regular XY stage, you'll see that there's a yoke here, and that corresponds to this basically dovetail here as well. So I like to loosen this knob just a little bit so there's enough clearance. And then you come in and mount the stage, and then hand tighten. Do note that sometimes when you place this on the stage, you might think it's fully engaged, but it's actually at an angle. So you can actually mount the stage and have it mount like this and be at an angle. So what I like to do is just make sure that when you move it forwards and backwards, it feels like a level field. Make sure it catches both ways, and then you can go ahead and tighten this stage. You of course have your slide holder. This is attached with two simple thumb screws in the back. It's keyed for a screwdriver, but you don't need to use a screwdriver. In our demo scope, we have a rectangle stage and a circular polarizing stage. For this training video, I'm just showing the rectangular stage. If you need further help with the circular stage, we can certainly help you. And now my next step is I'm going to attach the nose piece. You will notice that you have two nose pieces fully loaded with objectives. Each one is labeled right or left. In this case, this is the left one, and I'm going to install the right nose piece. Needless to say, don't drop it. This is the critical part. If you are more comfortable installing the nose piece before the stage, you can certainly do so. However, I like to install the stage before the nose piece because as you're putting the stage in, you may tip and hit the objectives. Again, there is a dovetail. That you can see here, where this just slides right into. And then of course there is your 3mm Allen wrench off to the side. And again, this is just a finger tighten, just so it's snug. A quick note, you want to make sure that when you push this nose piece on the dovetail, it goes all the way back and hits a stop. We're going to do the same for the other side as well. You're going to notice me reaching behind the microscope for the third 3mm Allen wrench. There is a little slot on the back that is designed to hold this 3mm Allen wrench. The next step is to install our illuminator. To install the LED illuminator is fairly simple. You'll have your LED fiber optic light source, and then what we'll have is our randomized fiber optic cable. And again, it is labeled for left or right. So what you want to do is take your fiber optic cable and loosen this thumb screw at the ferrule and then connect it. On some of our fiber optic cables, there is a dot. If there is a red dot or a white dot, just make sure that that red dot or white dot is pointed directly up. The next step is to take your fiber optic cable between the right side and the left side, and at the back of the microscope, you'll attach it to the appropriate side of the foamet, which is our fiber optic lighting guide mount. And again, there's a single 3mm set screw on the back. The next step is to attach our fluorescence LED illuminator. The good news is this is very straightforward. Traditional mercury bulb light sources, which burn mercury lamps, require an alignment procedure, which require a setup procedure. But I love the LEDs because they simply mount, they lock in, and you're good to go. This is our Excite 120 LED. This is an older model. They now make them about as same light intensity, just a little bit smaller. So I'm going to go ahead and directly attach. They mount the same way. And again, you use your 3mm Allen wrench. And lock it to the 2 set screws that are on the back, on the coupling. And then you repeat for the same side. The last and kind of final step is to attach the camera. In this particular case, I do not have a camera with me, but the camera attachment is very easy and very straightforward. It is simply just attaching the C-mount adapter, which also has a dovetail, directly to the top, setting it, and then locking it in with the 3mm set screw, and then getting that angle that we talked about earlier. Okay, that's about it. If you have any further questions, please feel free to contact us. We'd be more than happy to guide you through any part of this step and procedure.